In this video, I will be explaining the purpose of key signatures and how key signatures are laid out on the treble and bass clef staves. Specifically, I'll be focusing on C major, F major, G major, and D major. It's important that you know how to calculate scales before watching this video. If you need to, have a look at my other videos which explain these. So, what is a key signature? Well, let's look at the very start of a piece of music. There are three pieces of information here: the clef, the key signature, and the time signature. The key signature is very important for reasons I'll explain in a moment, but to start with, just be aware that a key signature is placed after the clef, but before the time signature. A lot of students often place them in the wrong order. This key signature has two sharps in it: F sharp, which I've highlighted blue, and C sharp, which I've highlighted red. The purpose of this key signature is to tell a musician to play all of the Fs and Cs in the music as F sharps and C sharps. If there was just one flat, B flat, this tells the musician to play all of the Bs as B flats. Now, the key signature can't just randomly contain any note, and neither can it have a mixture of flats and sharps like this. There are some very strict rules relating to key signatures, and this video explains precisely how to lay out sharps or flats in the key signature. Let's look at a scale of G major. Here it is in the treble clef, and if you worked out this scale correctly, you'll know that there is an F sharp here. At the moment, this is G major ascending because we're going upwards, without key signature. In other words, there is no key signature after the clef here. And if you're wondering why there is no time signature, musicians often leave out a time signature when they are writing scales like this. Let's assume you were asked to write this scale with a key signature. Well, G major has one sharp in it, the F sharp, highlighted red. We move the sharp so that it is placed after the clef. Notice how it is placed at the top of the stave rather than the bottom. This is very important. More about this later. And here is our key signature. With the key signature in place, there is no need to write a sharp before the F, as the key signature tells us to play all of the Fs as F sharps. Now, you might be wondering what difference it matters whether the sharp is placed here as part of the key signature or here as an accidental in front of the F. Well, imagine if you were playing this piece of music. There are lots of F sharps in it. In fact, this piece of music is in the key of G major. But rather than using a key signature, all of the F sharps have been written in. Therefore, an alternative, rather than writing in all of the sharps, would be to use the key signature of G major. This means we can take out all of the sharps in our music, as the key signature tells us to play all of the Fs as F sharps. This makes the music much easier and quicker to read. I'll pop this key signature of G major at the bottom of the screen where I'll be placing all of the key signatures we look at in this video. Before we move on, let's just quickly look at how we lay out a G major key signature on the bass clef. Like the treble clef, notice how the sharp is placed towards the top of the stave. It is never placed down on the bottom F. More of this shortly. I'll pop this at the bottom of the screen as well. Let's have a look at another key, D major. This time it is descending. You can see that there is a C sharp and an F sharp in our scale. We can move both of these sharpened notes to form our key signature, and it looks like this. Now, a few things to note here. The F sharp is placed first. Key signatures with sharps always start with an F sharp. So putting the C sharp before the F sharp, like this, is wrong. Secondly, the F sharp is always placed at the top of the stave. Thirdly, the C sharp is always in the middle of the stave. If it were the C sharp above, it would need a ledger line. Key signatures never use ledger lines. And finally, the C sharp is placed after the F sharp, not underneath it. When you are ready to move on to more complex key signatures, be aware that sharps and flats appear in the same order. So, by remembering these rules will help you to quickly calculate other key signatures. I'll pop the D major key signature at the bottom of the screen. Here is the key signature of D major but in bass clef. Notice how the same rules apply. The F sharp is placed first and it's at the top of the stave. The C sharp is placed below the F sharp and after, not before. I'll put this bass clef key signature of D major at the bottom of the screen as well. How about F major? Here it is ascending in the bass clef this time. There is one B flat in the scale. We can move it to form the key signature. However, does the B flat sit here or here? Well, the answer is the one on the left. The reason will become clearer when you look at a key which has two flats in it, but if you are interested for the moment, it is because if we put the B flat at the top of the stave, this will cause the next key signature note to have a ledger line through it. As you know, this is not allowed. I'll pop this correct key signature at the bottom of the screen. In the same place, I'll also show you the key signature for F major, but with a treble clef. Again, notice how the flat sits in the middle of the stave. A higher or lower B would require the use of a ledger line. Finally, how about C major? Well, this scale has no sharps or flats in it, so this one is very simple. If there's no sharps or flats in the key signature, it is C major, unless it's A minor, but I'll look at A minor in another key signature video. But just remember, C major is still considered to have a key signature. There are just no sharps or flats in it, like those I'm adding here at the bottom of the screen. So, before we finish, just to recap and look at some important rules. Firstly, key signatures help declutter music from the overuse of sharps or flats. Secondly, key signatures can help you determine what key, like C major, F major, or D major, etc., a piece of music is in. Thirdly, in key signatures with sharps, the F sharp always comes first and is placed at the top of the stave. And finally, in key signatures with flats, the B flat always comes first. I do hope that this video has been useful to you. Do have a look at the next video in this series about key signatures, which explains both major and minor key signatures with up to 3 sharps or flats in them. In the meantime, thanks for watching.